Hi everyone. Am I audible, everyone?
Yes, Sri, you are.
Just 1 minute. So we discussed about the previous class. We discussed about merge, right? Merge and concat or numpy. I think numpy. I think so. Sorry. So we discussed
No.
about numpy. So I hope you understand about numpy, right? So what is the purpose of numpy? Numpy is basically used for fast numerical calculations, and we discussed about how to use numpy and what is the main motivation to go for numpy are also complex numerical calculations. I hope you got a chance to practice. Any specific questions on numpy from anyone? Vijaya and others. Any questions? No questions? Did you got
I
a chance? Ah,
practiced some Sri and need to work on like all other different methods and functions with this
mm, mm,
NumPy.
correct.
So
Okay, but you got it. You understood, right? What is the main motivation
yes,
of going?
yeah, the motto of NumPy, yes, I understood.
Okay, 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 cool. Okay, let us try to discuss a bit about. We start with Azure services today. So Azure SQL services will start with an Azure SQL database, and let me try to explain about the Azure SQL database, and we'll move forward. Just give me a minute. Okay, I'm just sharing my screen. Let me know you're able to see. So we discussed about normal SQL database. I hope everybody remember that the SQL Server database which we discussed. So in general, whatever we discussed, that is on-premise physical server where we installed SQL Server in our local, and we started using that as a database server, and we executed some of the commands to create the database and manipulate the database by creating some tables, and also did some of the CRUD operations, and we also did some of the joins and set operators, and we discussed about even procedures and aggregate functions and functions. We discussed about all this we did through a physical server. But sometimes what will happen, you need to have a database which can be accessed through cloud. So Azure SQL like database is one of the like service in Azure environment to create your SQL server database in the cloud and infrastructure as a service. So Azure provides two different kinds of services like infrastructure as a service and platform as a service also. Both it will provide. So while creating your Azure SQL database also, we have different ways to do that. So different ways of deployment types, we can call it as. The first and foremost like type is single database deployment. So I can go and create a single database and which will be like have its own set of resources. And the second one, elastic pool, which will have a collection of databases which will share the resources. And in single database like deployment, you have only one database and it will have its own resources and it is not going to share with anyone. And elastic pool is basically a collection of group of databases which will share the resources. And the third one is a managed instance deployment where this particular deployment will have a dedicated engine which will be also similar to elastic pool, but it will have a separate dedicated engine and instance which will be executed and will can create this particular like database also in the cloud. And we'll see one by one what are these particular deployment types and all. And coming to like deployment types, the first is like which we already like saw like how to install this in our on-premise. But Azure provides the SQL server can be installed as a virtual machine also. If you go and create a virtual machine, in the virtual machine, a database will be pre-installed. That is one of the like method how we can go and install SQL server inside a virtual machine, and where you need to create this virtual machine through Azure like services, and we'll see that how to create also. And that is how the first single database deployment can be done. And while provisioning the single database, you also need to like plan your budget here, because you will have a purchasing models here where how many virtual core CPUs you need, or how many like DTUs you required, and how many like service types you required. All these you also need to configure. So to configure this, you need to go to the Azure portal, and there are options to select of your choice. I'll show you that. And this is the single database deployment. And we also have like elastic pool deployment, where you will have multiple databases, more than one database into one elastic pool or group. So what is the difference between single database and elastic pool? A single database deployment will have its own set of resources, dedicated resources. But whereas for elastic pool, you will have a collection of databases which will share the resources. So you can also do that. So multiple like databases can be grouped into one pool, and they can share the resources. Sometimes that is required. And whenever I say managed instance deployment, you will have a separate like dedicated instances will be there, and you will have a choice of migration here, and the service types and on-premise like migrations can be done very easily with managed instance. And we'll also see like how to go and leverage this particular databases with security features also. How can we go and select the Azure database security also? We'll see that. And when I talk about SQL Server in Azure, why we need to go with SQL Server in Azure? Why can't we use an on-premise SQL Server? Because Azure SQL Server is fully managed by Azure team. We do not need to go and worry about how it is going to manage, how it can be managed. So we can go and use a SQL Server which is totally managed by Azure team. And coming to like performance and pricing, we can go and estimate that, and by looking at the like configuration, it will clearly show you what is the pricing is going to happen. So we can go and try to manage that by looking at the pricing and all. And elastic pool is suitable for unpredictable workloads, where you will have a group of databases where we can go and use the elastic pool like to collect to group the databases so that the databases can share the resources. And 99% availability will be there, where Azure is going to give the guarantee. And replication, so database replication geographically and restoring the databases if required, all these are possible. And this SQL Server in Azure will support the existing like SQL Server like features and libraries and whatever required to migrate my on-premise SQL Server. I can easily migrate to the cloud Azure SQL Server. And scalability with no downtime, that is also important. When I say scalability, increase in the capacity, increase the capacity of the servers. So for example, I want to go and want to add additional compute or additional storage. This can be easily done without any downtime. Normal traditional databases, if at all you want to go and upgrade, you will definitely stop them. And you will definitely stop them, and you will go and experience a downtime as a user. But here, you do not need to worry about the downtime, because scalability is one of the like automated scalability is available here, where Azure itself will team itself will take care of the automated scalability to increase the capacity. And secure and compliant for our sensitive data. This is one of the important feature, because majority of the banks, they are very particular about data sensitivity. Customer data is very, very sensitive, so they always worry about how, and the tools can help them to secure their sensitive data. So Azure SQL Server database is a secured database which will even like secure your like customer data, sensitive data, and with enhanced encryption and database protection. And that is how we need to go with the Azure SQL Server in the cloud. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. When I say infrastructure as a service, we'll go with the virtual machine. SQL Server will be available in a fully managed virtual machine in the Azure. We can create like that. And second one, database as a service, where you will go and create a Azure SQL database that will be hosted in the Azure environment. So we can create either like infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. These are the two different options to create a SQL Server database in the Azure environment. I am talking about the single database. And the comparison, like and we'll see that how the benefits is going to, because when I go with like the benefits, so as I mentioned earlier, if I go with a SQL Server like inside fully managed VM, we do not even need to worry about the infrastructure. Azure team itself will take care of what infrastructure is required, and what kind of configuration is required. We do not need to worry about what is the configuration required, like for SQL Server, and how many instances required, and all this will be taken care by the virtual machine itself. But in case of Azure SQL database, you need to go and find out what the configuration required, and benefit wise, anything that we need to go and manage, and normal Azure virtual machine SQL Server will be taken care by the teams. But here, whatever the hosted database, you need to take care of. You need to go and see, and if at all you want to stop it, or you want to go and restart it, you need to take care of this particular Azure SQL database. But here, once you go and finish your task, you can directly go and release the instances also. That is how you need to see the benefits comparison. And when I talk about Azure database deployment options, so we discussed about single database, elastic pool, and managed instance, and these three will fall under platform as a service. When I talk about infrastructure as a service, you go with the SQL Server in the virtual machines. So we can do in two ways, where you can go and create Azure SQL database. One is infrastructure as a service using virtual machines. Second one, platform as a service by using these three methods. One is single database deployment, elastic pool, and managed instance deployment. So we'll see all this one by one. So when I talk about SQL Server on virtual machine, you need to go and leverage the virtual machines which is provided by the Azure, and it will contain a full version of the SQL Server in the cloud once you create it, and you will have a geographical regions where you can go and replicate automatically, and you have a variety of configurations to even select. You will have a choice of selecting a configuration also if needed. And one more important benefit with this particular SQL Server on Azure virtual machine is automatic updates will be taken care by the team. High availability. High availability will be available because virtual machines will never be will go down. So your database will be continuously running. And apart from that, when we are creating this particular managed instance and other types of deployments, you need to go and also consider some of the database service types, and we'll see that anyway once you go to that particular database purchase model type, and we need to have the vCore based and DTU based model will be there. We need to select for a single database and elastic pool and managed instance, we'll go with the vCore based, and for single database and elastic pool, we go with the DTU based. Only for managed instance only we'll go with the vCore based. For single database and elastic pool, we can go with the DTU based model itself. And when I need to use vCore based, so vCore based the model is basically best for the customer who need flexibility, control, and transparency. And DTU based is suitable for the customer who want a single pre-configured resource options. And vCore based is a straightforward way to translate on-premise workload to the cloud, whereas DTU based is it requires to calculate the DTUs, how many DTUs you need for before migration. So this is just like a infrastructure related configuration, and Microsoft usually will recommend with the vCore based model. And if the DTU based model is you purchased, you need your performance. It requires the performance and business requirements, and you should continue to use it. So DTU based is a little bit costlier compared to vCore based. So even Microsoft also will recommend to use vCore based only. And we'll see that how to select this particular DTV based and vCore based model while creating the Azure SQL Server database. And let us try to see how to go and create a Azure SQL Server like VMware instance model. Let us go here. I just logged into my Azure portal here. And here we'll go to home. Here we need to go to all resources, and here home. So we have more services. So here we need to select virtual machines. Estimate on services, and you should have a Azure SQL. So to create a Azure SQL or VM instances, you need to go and select the Azure SQL option. And here you need to go and select the SQL, click on the particular create, and you need to select your choice here. So there are different options. SQL databases is there, and you have a SQL managed instance is there, and SQL virtual machines also is there. So we need to select the third option. So if you click this, it will show you the multiple different versions of SQL Server, and you can select any one, and based on your choice. So we'll go and select the free SQL Server option, which is available here, and click on the create button. So this is going to allow you to create a SQL server on the VM virtual machine. So virtual machine where you can go and connect. So once you select this, and it will ask you to enter the basic details. So you will have a subscription which you have to select, and where you can go, and by default it will be there. And resource group. So resource group is going to group your Azure resources into one particular group. So here you can create a new group, or you can use the existing group. I already have a group here. I'm just selecting that. If at all you want to create a new group, you can click on this. It will prompt you to enter a new group. You can give that. Now virtual machine name. You can give any name here. So I just want to give like I'm just giving a skill VM new, which I want to go and give the name, and region. By default it is selecting this US region, and I don't want to change it all. And availability option, and we can select the availability zone, and we can go and select whatever the choice. So as of now I want to select this one only. And apart from that, the
Is it free or we have to buy the subscription?
free, you can see here we are selecting the free version here, and I am using a free free version only here, the free Azure portal account. Okay. So once you create and test it, try to delete the instances. Don't keep them like because if you keep the Azure SQL database running, you need to pay. Once after you finish that, just try to remove the like virtual machine, and I'll show you how to even remove. And you need to go and okay, it is not available. Okay, just try to see. Just try to select the one. Let me go back to USL. It is not available. Take the older version and see. Wait for that.
We're creating support ticket, Sri, or
No, we are trying to like adding for some quota. If we don't have that, let us see.
oh yeah.
And we are adding that. And this is a support ticket only, but let us go back and select the other option. It's not allowing, I don't know why. Yeah, when we select this, it's saying the quota is not available. I'm going with the older version also is not allowing. I don't know why. Let me check it once. And now let us give the, I selected one particular size. So let us try to give the name VM. And here you need to go and give the username and password. So what username and password you want to connect? So you can give your like maybe I'll give like the name as Azure user. We can give any name just to I'll give Azure user and password. I'll give like I give the password, username password, and you need to select the RDP 339 by default 3389, the port default port, and then go to the networking settings. You need to also uh, need to go and configure the network settings. So let us move to the next, and here the disks which is automatically whatever it is selected you can keep as it is, and go to the networking. And here in the networking side also you need to go and cross check the default port for like SQL connectivity, and we need to select what is the like subnet, and all this by default is selected, so you can go and use as it is, no need to change this. And public inbound and select inbound ports, so we can keep like as it is, so no need to change anything. And go to the next management, keep that as it is, no need to change. Monitoring also we can keep it. Now here in the SQL server settings, here you need to configure, and whatever you see here, we'll try to change it to public internet, and port will give 1433, and SQL authentication should be like we need to enable. So here we are using the Azure user, the password which we created, and once you finish this, you can go and select all. We can keep as it is default, nothing to change, and click on the review and create. So this is going to create a new SQL server in the virtual machine, and let us see. Once this is created, how to connect to this particular SQL server? We need to use SQL Server Management Studio. So let us wait. My validation is passed now, so I need to click on create. It is now creating. So the deployment is in progress. Once it will finish, we can go and connect to the SQL Server Management Studio. We'll go to the SQL server and we'll try to enter, and server name we need to get. We'll wait for the server like name, and ID name and password we know, and we'll try to connect by using that particular authentication. So let us wait for deployment to complete. This is the way of using a virtual machine and connecting to the SQL server. But here we are not going to install anything because everything will be taken care by the Azure team from the background. So once my deployment is completed, then it will try to allow you to connect. So let us wait. You can see here what is happening in the deployment. So it is creating most of the like resources in the background. You can see here. So it is trying to create all these resources in the background, and which is required to maintain this particular like SQL Server database in the VMware. So I have a document how to create this particular like virtual machine, virtual machine in like SQL Server in virtual machine. I will share that. You can also follow and create from your side. You can try that. Meanwhile, we go to SQL Server and we'll try to use connect. Here we need to change to SQL Server authentication, and you need to give the like server name here, which we are going to get, and username and password. We know that username is Azure user. And only we need here is the the server name. So we need to get that. It will take some time, so 4 to 5 minutes, and we need to wait. Once after it is created, we can start using it and like a normal SQL database server. But the resources all will be provided by Azure environment. So we are not going to use any like infrastructure, or everything will be provided by Azure team only in the background. So they are now this particular virtual machine which is getting created with an automated like option which is configured by the Azure team.
When I click on create Azure SQL, it is directly going to the subscription.
Hmm. You,
So we have to take subscription or
you
how
can
to
create a free account.
free
Right?
account?
Create a
Okay.
free account. I'll share one document for that as well. So try to create a free account and start using it. Okay? Are you getting?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll share the document also. Okay, today. How to get a free
Okay.
account and then start using this particular option of creating the SQL server in the VMware.
Okay.
Yeah. Just wait for the deployment to complete, and we'll see how to connect to this database from SQL Server Management Studio. We just need waiting for the server name, which the Azure team is going to provide us now. Ours is this one. So we need you can see here the details like this is the version of SQL Server, and you also can see this is a Windows virtual machine, which is like which we are currently which we created, and you can simply click on the configuration. So my deployment is succeeded, and I'll go here, and I should see the public IP address. Can you see, everyone? Copy this, and you need to go to here. Server name is this one. I think that is sufficient. I think so. To connect, let us try to connect and see. Rest all will be okay. So let us try to connect. There is a connection option available. So when you connect, it will prompt you to use the port as this is my public IP address, and 3389 is the port which I need to mention here. So we can add the port also along with server name. So let us try to connect through, and the password. It will allow us to connect, and we'll try to see. If not, we'll try to connect through RDP, remote desktop file. Again, let us try to remove this port. So now it is connected. Can you see? Can you see, everyone? This is my local one, whatever you see. And this is the Azure one which we just created. This is the new like SQL Server database server which we created from the virtual machine option here. If at all you want to connect via any remote desktop file, you can also download this file, and you can click on this, and you can connect through remote desktop also. So you need to give the password here. This is another way. So you can even connect through this virtual machine also. The same database. The same database I am connecting through virtual machine now. So here you will have a SQL Server like installed virtual machine. So if you go and see here, you will see a SQL Server 2016 which got installed here. This is the remote desktop connection and which we connected through RDP, and this is the virtual machine which we connected now. And apart from this, you simply go and disconnect. So now we connected through SQL Server Management Studio, so we can start creating a new like a databases, and we can start using it. So we can create your new database and you can start creating tables and all. So you can use like a normal database. Okay. You can also try to create this and share the document, which will help you to follow the document and the step-by-step process to create this virtual like SQL server on VMware. And I'll show you in the next class how to create a SQL Server database as a single like SQL database and not like with virtual machine. And we also will see with the elastic pool and manage instance also. Single database deployment we'll see in the next class. But today we just practice how to create a SQL Server database using the virtual machine. Okay, everyone? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I'll share that free account document also. Please try to create your Azure free account too, because we need that, everyone. Okay. Thank you so much.